Welcome to Make America Healthy, where our goal is to educate you, inspire you, and empower you to take better control of your own physical and mental health. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Beth Shaw. I'm the host of Make America Healthy, the founder of Yoga Fit Training Systems Worldwide, the world's largest yoga school, and the author of many best-selling books on health and wellness, all with the word yoga in the title. So today's topic is which foods are making you sick? Hidden food allergies that may be making you fat as well as sick. And we're joined today by two amazing guests. We have Roger Deutsch, who is the founder and CEO of Cell Sciences Systems. And it's a lab that has developed the ALCAT test, which will tell you what food and chemical sensitivities you have. He is also the author of the book, Your Hidden Food Allergies Are Making You Fat, and a frequent lecturer around the world. He is also a TM, Transcendental Meditation teacher, and loves to go to India. And he's also a philanthropist. So welcome to the show, Roger.
Thank
And
you.
we're also joined today by Amy, and I'll probably butcher your last name, Pieczarka, dietitian and nutritionist in practice for 38 years, and she is part of the Prevamedica team of nutrition and lifestyle consultants. So she has been studying nutrition, much like myself, since college, and does a lot of lecturing for hospitals. She's an expert in gut health, digestive disorders, food sensitivity of adverse food reactions, weight management, metabolic symptoms, diabetes, and so much more. So welcome to you both. I have had the pleasure, I don't actually know if it's a pleasure, but I've had the opportunity to take the tests from your companies. And I was really shocked at some of the foods that I thought were healthy that I was eating, like carrots and arugula. They actually have sensitivity to an extreme sensitivity to things like agave, which means no more tequila for me. It's a sad day, but in any event, I've been studying nutrition since college and obviously written several books like Yoga Lean, and this is really making a shift for me. It's a game changer, I think, for many people, especially those of us who've had digestive issues. And we have a lot to unpack today. So, welcome to the show. Let's get started with you, Roger, how you got into this field and how you developed these tests.
I had horrible allergies when I was growing up in the Northeast. It was very distressing. And I went for allergy treatments, which included allergy shots. And I did that for about a year. And it didn't create any benefit for me. After 1 year, I asked the allergist, actually, what causes allergy? And she said, no one knows. And that took me aback. And so I decided to make an effort to work it out on my own. I went to India, I started meditation practices and yoga. I used to do yoga for several hours a day for several years. And of course, there was from many benefits in a number of ways, but it didn't cure my allergy problem. And by happenstance, I met one time when I was in Europe and had a cold, which wouldn't go away, an Australian naturopath who suggested to me that I change my diet to avoid any mucus-causing foods. This was back around the mid-'70s, and I didn't understand really what were mucus-causing foods. So he gave me a list, which included things like dairy and wheat and so forth, and he gave me some suggestions of what to eat and what teas to drink. In a couple of days, my cold went away, and I felt lighter, more flexible, more energetic, and breathing much more easily than I ever had. And so that gave me the understanding that diet was probably the strongest thing you can do for your health, which makes a lot of sense, of course. Years went by, I did different things. I went into business. I developed an oil brokerage company, which is kind of a diversion, but for a few years I was a little tangled up in phone wire, brokering oil deals around the world. And I really wanted to get away from that and get back to what was more aligned with my personal interests. I was introduced to some people, actually developed the rudiments of this test And we're looking for someone with business experience and background in the field of holistic health to help develop it and commercialize it. And that's when I took on this project in 1986. So I wasn't the original developer, but since then I've been involved in all aspects of the test and all the improvements of the test we've made over the last 38 or so years that I've been involved in it.
I took your test, and fortunately, I don't live too far from your corporate facility, and I was a little hesitant and doubtful, to be honest with you. I toured your amazing facility. I see that everything that you do is in-house, and it's quite advanced in terms of technology and all the equipment. So I've been for the past month trying to adhere to this new way of eating, and it's challenging. It dramatically changed the way I cook because I use a lot of spices that apparently I have sensitivities to. It's a work in progress for me to eliminate so many foods that I was eating and beverages as well. Amy, you've been at this for quite some time and much like myself, studying nutrition since college. What do you see when people take these tests and really stick to them?
That is the key to really put into practice what is suggested. Just kind of going back a little bit, when someone has a lot of food sensitivities, it's pretty safe to say we're going to make the assumption that there's probably gut permeability going on, probably leaky gut. And as you know, and your listeners know, everything starts in the gut. So we have to work to heal the gut. And part of healing the gut is removing the reactive foods. If someone is reacted to candida, we might assume that there's candida overgrowth. We have to address that as well. But to answer your question, after we go through the gut healing and the removal of the reactive foods and the emphasis of a variety of their non-reactive foods, what we see is all sorts of wonderful results. Many times people are testing because they have symptoms that they want to address. They've just been from doctor to doctor for many years, spinning their wheels, not knowing what the culprits for their symptoms are, like IBS type symptoms, chronic diarrhea, or constipation, gas, bloating, migraines, things like that. Anything, skin issues. That's really why they want to do the test. We see improvement in that. And a lot of times what people say is, I didn't even know that all these benefits were going to be seen. I just wanted to target my migraines, and now my digestion is so much better. I lost weight, and that wasn't even my main goal. All sorts of benefits we'll see. And of course, everyone is different. It's all positive, and that's the key, is putting into practice and actually following the results.
So, Roger, you wrote a book called Are Hidden Food Allergies Making You? Tell our listeners how these food allergies may be making them fat.
The key word here is hidden. So when we talk about food allergies, there's hidden food allergies or delayed hypersensitivity reactions, or often called food sensitivities. And they're called hidden because the symptom onset can be delayed by hours or even a couple of days. So people don't know they have it. They may be eating something every day, and eating it actually might suppress their symptoms temporarily, but the underlying symptoms are still there and they're usually increasing. So we're getting reports from people all around the world that people are having the test to treat their migraines or their IBS or their arthritis or their skin rashes and so forth. And they were, as a side effect, losing weight. And they weren't necessarily restricting calories. In some cases, they were eating more, but their metabolism became efficient. So we organized a study with people at Baylor Medical College, and it got published in a journal. And it indicated that 98% of the people following the ALCAT test either lost weight and or improved their body composition, meaning that they lost fat but increased muscle. When that was published, I got an offer from Random House to write a book. So the book explains it, and we actually have the book available on the website. But the short answer to the question is that the inflammatory process involves the production of chemicals that we may have heard of in connection with things like COVID or chronic inflammatory issues, or even autoimmune cytokines like tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin 6 that are produced by these immune cells triggered by food, which the body thinks may be dangerous. And those things interfere with metabolism. So instead of the nutrients getting into the cells, these chemicals actually block insulin receptors. And so the food is not used by the cell for energy. Instead, it's stored as fat. So when you take that away, automatically your metabolism gets to be more efficient. You have more energy and you're not storing fat. And then there's other things too. It's a very complex issue. So there's neurochemicals involved and so forth, appetite control and so forth. But it's all done in a very natural way.
I'm sold on this now, and I'm going to be sharing it with I run a lot of online weight loss and weight management groups, through our Yoga Lean program at YogaFit. Even in my book, Yoga Lean, I put that spicy foods can help boost metabolism, but then I took this test and found out that I'm, uh, moderately sensitive to jalapenos, to ancho chili peppers. I cook with a lot of spice. And so the very things that I thought were helpful to metabolism actually, in my case, perhaps were and are not. I'm assuming that these tests, they're so detailed because I've had a couple of people close to me take them. They're so different from person to person. And even if you're not overweight, eliminating them can make a big difference in the way that you feel. I have noticed that I have less stomach bloating, which is good news. I haven't removed my mildly sensitive foods yet. That's a work in process, and I will tell you that going out to eat, being on this new eating regimen is challenging. Doable, but challenging. I feel like more people really need to know about this because people think that they have a metabolism issue. They can't seem to lose the weight. They're counting their calories. Maybe they're even injecting themselves with these new weight loss drugs. But at the end of the day, even if they're not eating a lot and they're eating a lot of carrots like I was and thought they were healthy, but I'm moderately sensitive to them, that is problematic.
We get that kind of comment a lot when we're going over results with our patients. And some, for example, severe reaction to walnut. I thought walnut was the best nut to eat. Yes, in and of itself, it's a health promoting food, but for someone who's got the reaction to it, it's pro inflammatory instead of being anti inflammatory. Just about every food that's tested in the ALCAT test is considered health promoting if in some sort, anti inflammatory, but not if there's a sensitivity to it, not if the cells are reacting to it, like Roger described. And this is why I actually feel that anyone would benefit from this test, whether they're struggling with symptoms or not, because what we're talking about is the inflammatory response of the cells. And like Roger described, these inflammatory substances from within the cells being released into the gut, into the circulation, creating inflammation, whether we feel symptoms of that or not.
I have a question for you about inflammation. We've had Dr. Barry Sears on the show a lot. He talks a lot about inflammation and its cognitive effects on you. Your brain can be inflamed from too much sugar and processed foods. And I'm going to use myself as an example because that's the only example I have. I do very regular blood work. I don't have any inflammation markers in my normal blood work. But if I'm eating foods that I'm highly sensitive to or moderately sensitive to, is that just going to create inflammation within the gut, but not the whole body?
It will create inflammation throughout the whole system, and it could manifest effects in any target organ in the body. So when we talk about we talk about impairment of metabolism, it affects the cells, of course, where there's a lot of metabolism taking place, the liver, the gut, the brain, but then it extends through the circulation throughout the entire body. And for different reasons that are genetic, some people manifest symptoms in terms of skin rashes. Other people manifest symptoms in terms of joint stiffness or arthritis. Other people manifest CNS, central nervous system hyperactivity, or they might get inflammation in the brain, which just makes them feel a little bit foggy. So it goes everywhere and anywhere. And it's a unique pattern, which is based on the complex individual factors based on our genetics. We don't know why that is right now, but some people are more prone. So if one or both of your parents have had allergies, you're more prone, and you might manifest the same patterns in them as they do, or you might manifest your own unique patterns. But it's throughout the whole system.
Amy, walk us through the process. I know we're going to be offering our listeners a special opportunity to get a discount on taking these tests, depending upon what state they live in. But can they go anywhere for a blood draw? And how does this work? Take us through how it works, where they can get it done, how long it takes to get the results, and then what happens once they get the results.
Well, they would just go to PreviMedica.com, get tested, order the particular ALCAT test that they would like. And there's other testing that Self Science Systems offers for
Yeah,
consumer.
we'll talk about those towards the end of the show because I'm curious about those other. I know did one at your facility, but I know you even have telomere testing and all kinds of great stuff.
And so they would order the test, and then what will happen is a member on my team will reach out to test or can indicate do they need help coordinating a blood draw. So if they say yes, because sometimes people work for an office where there's phlebotomy or their sibling draws blood, but they need help coordinating a blood draw. Someone on my team will reach out to the person and find a good blood draw option in the area. Not every walk-in laboratory will draw this test, but
Okay.
you would be sent a test kit with all the supplies for the blood draw in there. And it would be any lab test now or ArcPoint. Those walk-in labs will draw for this test. And we also have a mobile phlebotomy. We have agreements with a number of phlebotomists so that if the patient needs, we could go into the home and do the draw that way. So anyway, a person on my team will help with that so that the kit would be sent to the patient directly. And then the person drawing the blood would send the specimen overnight, FedEx. It's all very organized in the test kit. All the instructions are there. And then it would arrive to the laboratory within 24 hours, preferably. The lab will do the testing and the results would be ready for the patient, and they would create an account on our portal, and the results would be available for the person there. And then we also, in PreviMedica, remember, we're a whole team of nutritionists. So what we do is individual formal nutrition therapy. So people who order the test from us, foods test or more of ALCAT, get a 1 month membership with PreviMedica. They would be assigned to a nutritionist on my team for 2 full formal nutrition appointments. The full nutrition plan, no plan is like any other. Everyone is different. Everything is individualized. And then first appointment, the nutritionist would come up with a nutrition plan, and then the follow-up session before that month is over. And in between those sessions, the patient is messaging the nutritionist, supporting them as they're implementing their plan. And then they can continue to work with us if they like, but they certainly don't have to. But that comes with that order. Test results will be available within 5 to 7 business days, usually about 5, on the portal, and they'll get an email notification of that. We also have the option of ordering a meal planning tool. So I have a meal planner on my team. We have developed software that syncs with this test. And that's big support because, like you said, this is really challenging, especially when you're improving a lot.
I'm a chef. I cook. It's super challenging. I was eating a lot of rice. Now I'm mildly sensitive to rice.
Yeah.
Black tea I was drinking by the gallon, and that's a mild allergen for myself as well. I think forces one into an elimination diet, which sounds great, even though it can be a little challenging. How long does one have to stay on the plan?
I'm so glad you asked that because that's the key. And that's what I wanted to say to you about how tough it is to avoid your reactive foods. But one thing I wanted to say about that, when we have a lot of sensitivities, that makes us suspect there's probably leaky gut going on. Yes, we need to heal the gut. And what we utilize is what's called, you probably the Institute of Functional Medicine originated the 5R program, right? Remove, takes all the guesswork out of what we need to remove. Reactive foods, candida, replace with a variety of non-reactive foods, replace with digestive enzymes, re-inoculate, we address the gut microbiome, repair the gut lining with different nutrients, and a variety of plant-based foods with the polyphenols and so forth that would help to heal that gut lining. And then rebalance, yoga, meditation, right? The stress in the gut so closely connected, right? So that's the 5R. Now we add another R to that, and that is reintroduce. Because to answer your question, what the goal would be. Like, for example, let's say you, Beth, like, I don't think you were symptomatic, which is great, but you already mentioned that you've seen some benefit, right? So what we want to hear from people is, oh my gosh, I feel great. Everything that I wanted to happen from doing this test is happening. Everything's being resolved. And my question would be, okay, did you avoid your reactive foods for the right period of time? Yes. Did you take my gut healing suggestions? Yes. All right. Now you're ready to systematically reintroduce, and that's that sixth R, reintroduce your previously reactive foods one at a time. Because the goal would be to no longer be sensitive to these anymore. That's the goal. For example, your jalapeno peppers or the things that the rice. We don't want you to have to have them eliminated forever. But that's the key, is giving your body, your gut, your immune system a rest from those foods, healing the gut, having a variety of your non-reactive foods. And then over time, after a certain period of time, you'd be able to reintroduce those. And hopefully
And
success.
that timing for most people, is that 3 to 6 months?
Correct. So depending on the degree of reactivity that you see in the ALCAT test with the severe reactions, a general recommendation, and everybody's a little bit different, but the general recommendation is to avoid them for 6 months or more. And then the moderate reactions, 3 months or more. We can individualize the mild reactions depending on what a person was doing previous to the test and with the consumption of those. But yeah, it's roughly 3 to 6 months for the avoidance.
That's definitely doable. People go on mono diets where they eat nothing but brown rice a month, or they fast. So I guess one can look at it as a modified fast.
And one of those things too is what I wanted to mention too is when people say, oh my gosh, I was having guacamole every day and I had a severe reaction to avocado and I was having green tea every day. Okay, there's part of it, the bombarding of the immune system with the same things all the time, over and over again. So the variety always, we always want people to have a variety, even when they're finished, of course, following their results and avoiding their reactive.
And that's one of the most important things I've gotten from taking a cell sciences test is mixing up the foods that you eat. I used to eat avocado and arugula almost every day,
Mhm.
and jalapenos, cucumbers. All of those things for me are on my moderately sensitive list. I'm trying now just to rotate the foods around, eating a lot of quinoa because I don't have a problem with that instead of rice. So, you know, actually, I'm finding that I'm able to cycle in some things that are quinoa is better for you than rice anyway. That's good news. For people who are ethically challenged with eating different meats, such as myself, I showed no allergy to pork, yet I have an ethical issue with eating pork. What do you do with your vegans and vegetarians who are taking this test and might find out that they're allergic to carrots, to cucumbers, to celery, to broccoli, to spinach, to some of the tofu, the main staples?
That's
That's
the
right. A lot of our listeners are vegetarian and some are vegan.
This is why it's beneficial to work with a nutrition professional so that we can work with the foods that are non-reactive. And again, that mild list, let's say it's just the person is reacting to so many things that they had been eating. And then we look at the green non-reactive area. We want people to be focusing on that. But let's say the person says, no, I'm not real crazy about all those things. So we need more variety. Then that would certainly make the nutritionist say, all right, let's include your mild reactions. And we would help with that systematic rotation to make sure that they're not doing too much of that. This is why it's really very helpful to have a nutrition expert to make sure that as they're removing the reactive foods, they are still meeting their nutrient requirement.
And you have a full staff of nutritionists during normal business hours or 24/7?
Well, no, as I was saying, with the order through Previmedica, it comes with that 1 month membership. We have 1 month memberships to get formal nutrition guidance. And everyone has their own individualized nutrition plan. It's not just about reviewing the test results and saying, here's what it means, and here you go, be on your way. We give them a whole plan to help them put everything into practice. And again, those meal planning tools, as I mentioned. So that's very helpful. So we'll have these, what we call built-in recipes within those meal planning tools. So is only utilizing what the patient did not react to. We don't want people to consume things that were untested. So what I meant to say with that, your last question, the more you test, the better, right? Because if someone only does a 150 food panel, we're going to say there's 100 foods right there because we could test 250 foods. There's 100 foods right there that we're going to say, yeah, you need to avoid because they weren't tested. So the more information, the better. But putting those into the meal plan tool so that the patient is only referring to what they can have rather than looking at their test results and figuring out this is just focusing on what they can have. And also in that booklet, not that we're encouraging packaged and processed foods, but they need to be gluten-free, dairy-free, yeast-free, soy-free, sugar-free. I need a bread. I need a cracker. Find me something. We'll search for products that will work for the patient's test results. And if we cannot find the product because maybe the product does not exist, depending on the patient's test results, then Andrea, our meal planner, will come up with a recipe for it.
That's awesome because I took a saliva test in 2012. It showed that I was highly gluten intolerant. I immediately went off gluten and I've been gluten free. Your test showed that I didn't have any issues with wheat. We've had many guests on the show talk about how all the wheat crops are sprayed with glyphosate. So I'm not going to run out and add wheat into my diet now, but if a wheat cracker happens to come my way, now I may eat it. But also what I find with the test is it's making me look at all the ingredients of all the foods. For example, if you're highly sensitive to brewer's yeast, from what I understand, you should be drinking beer or wine. Different sauces and dressings have all different kinds of things in them that you might be allergic to or sensitive to. It's creating an opportunity for me to look at the labels a lot more carefully. I would imagine for some people it becomes very complex because there are many ingredients in some alcoholic beverages that now are off the menu.
This is why it's beneficial to be consulting with someone on my team to give those suggestions to make it a heck of a lot more easy to put this into practice, to say this is what it means to be avoiding brewer's yeast. When you're following your food sensitivities, for the most part, I know it's not necessarily realistic all the time, but avoiding packaged and processed foods is what's going to be recommended anyway, because as you know, you spend hours in the grocery store looking for alternatives and you're looking at the ingredient list and putting everything back because you see something in there that you reacted to. So this is why we have these quick builder recipes that people can make a couple different versions of a salad dressing, a couple different versions of a breakfast cereal, let's say, and then be able to rotate those, following their plan, making it simple at the same time.
Tell us some success stories about some of your clients who've taken the test and what people who are thinking about this test can look forward to.
And we have so many. One that comes to mind fairly recently, who I was working with directly. This woman had experienced many years of chronic constipation, bloating and gas, and also GERD symptoms and difficulty losing weight. She had tried every diet that's out there, keto. She did fasting. She did time restricting feeding. She did moderate carbohydrates. She avoided gluten. Nothing seemed to be helping her. So she did the food sensitivity test, and yes, gluten was reacted to her, but also things that you would have never thought: salmon and spinach and coffee, things like that. So things that you wouldn't think of as common culprits. Anyway, as Roger has suggested, I really suspected that she was experiencing insulin resistance. This is her trouble with her weight loss. She was also very close to pre-diabetes and she had high fasting insulin levels. Anyway, she went on the nutrition plan. She avoided her reactive foods. She followed all my suggestions. She did the meal planning tools and did her recipes and so forth. Within 2.5 weeks, she dropped 10 pounds. She had been working with a trainer for many years and just at a standstill with her body fat percentage. She reduced body fat. And she's having now regular bowel movements, at least one a day now. So that happened after about a month of following it. That was really significant. And remember, people who order through Previmedica, they're getting the test first, right? And then they're meeting with us, which is not necessarily how most people are working with a nutritionist, right? So I had not met with this woman first. I did not know. I'm looking at her health questionnaire. I see she was struggling with chronic diarrhea, urgent diarrhea. She would travel every year to Europe. And she would know in all the cities and towns where they were with her family, where all the bathrooms were, right? So I'm looking at her test results thinking, this is not significant. This is before I met with her because she didn't react to gluten. She didn't react to dairy, which are very, very common culprits. She reacted to some legumes. She reacted to some vegetables. And I'm thinking, yeah, I bet you any money she's just going to say, yeah, this was really not helpful. Well, guess what? As she's looking at her results saying, oh my gosh, I eat that every other day. I eat this legume every other day. I eat that legume every other day. So it was so significant for her. Cut those out. That urgent diarrhea, gone. Formed stools. So things like that happen all the time. We had attention issues. You mentioned brain fog. We have worked with children with autism and attention issues with major, major results. Children with autism giving their parents eye contact now because of avoiding their reactive foods and following the nutrition plans. We can go on and on and on.
There,
Beautiful. Tell us about some of the other testing that you do at your facility. I did a vitamin and supplement test with you.
just before we leave the topic of what you can expect from the test, there were all these individual cases, such as Amy just described. But in one instance, we had a customer who was offering the test to people in Denmark. And over a period of 20 years, I had seen about 20,000 people with all sorts of chronic issues that were refractory to all other treatments and things that people tried. She got 90% of those people cured or significantly improved out of this population of individuals who were just having all kinds of issues that other approaches were not effective for. So we do have other tests. You mentioned the nutrition, cellular nutrition assay. And there's two aspects of that. These are cell-based tests. And that's our approach. Our name is Cell Science Systems, and cells are the basic unit of life. So all the processes are initiated in the cells. The DNA is inside the cells. On the defensive side, in immune cells, free radicals are produced from inside these cells, all the toxic mediators that can cause inflammatory controls, which we need for defense, but we don't need them, or they're from the cells. With the assessment of nutritional status, we use a cellular approach also. And we use a special subset of the immune cells, the white blood cells, that include the memory cells. And so when you have an infection, your specific immune cells, which are T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, one cell will respond to one kind of an infectious agent or an allergen, not the others. They're called specialized cells. And when you have an infection, let's just say it's been on people's minds, the T cells and the B cells that defend against COVID will actually divide and clone themselves in order to mount an effective response by producing antibodies or destroying cells that have been infected and so forth. Different strategies. And so what we do is we actually create a condition in the test tube where we separate out those memory cells and we stimulate them to proliferate as if there was an infection, something generalized that affects all those cells. And then we add in individual micronutrients and see which ones enhance the proliferation of those cells. And from that, we're able to see, regardless of whether a person's serum levels of that nutrient, that vitamin, that mineral, are within the so-called statistical normal range, for them, they might need more. And if when we add that nutrient, could be a vitamin or a mineral, we see improvement in the immune function, then we can reasonably conclude that the person's level of that nutrient inside their cells where things happen is not optimal. And so that's our approach. Then another part of that test is we actually stress the cells with hydrogen peroxide, a stressor, and look at the defense of those cells. And then we add in different antioxidants, botanical antioxidants and nutritional antioxidants and enzymatic antioxidants, and see which ones actually protect the cells. And so then we get a reading, which is quite accurate, that tells us from the ALCAT test what foods we need to avoid, and chemicals. And from the cellular nutrition assays, DMA and the APA, determine, we try and advise on which, and this is what Amy's team does very well, they take that into account when creating a program for an individual, what foods are good for the person, and then what foods contain higher concentrations of those micronutrients that are going to be beneficial for them. And then the third part.
So say that many of our listeners might be taking a host of supplements, but really wasting a lot of time and money because they might not need them
Yeah.
and they might need some other ones that they didn't
Or
even
might
hear
not,
about.
right. Or might not be
Yes.
getting enough or the right form. Yes. So as Roger said, that is something that we will, within their individualized nutrition plan, will customize the supplement routine. But yeah, that's exactly right. And the cellular nutrition assay, again, like Roger said, where nutrients do their jobs inside the cells, where all of biochemistry happens inside the cells, not in the serum, which is a conventional blood work, which has B12, vitamin D. That's in the serum. That's outside the cell. And it's short term as well. This is inside the cell and long term. So a person can have one status outside the cell and be completely different inside. So that's for us to figure out, why are these nutrients insufficient? And we look for patterns. Is there we do think that we need digestive support, a lot of amino acids, a lot of minerals that might be insufficient? Do we need some acid support? Or do we have dysbiosis, right? All sorts of patterns we look for. Genetic variations we also will be considering when we're making that supplement suggestion. But you're absolutely right. People might be taking mass quantities of supplements that they don't need, or that they're taking in the wrong form.
And the other thing too is, and I think I mentioned this to you, Beth, I want to call her a massage therapist, but she does a lot more than that. She's very skilled, a very gifted individual. She's Japanese, and her husband is a Chinese medical doctor. She came to us for a test, and I saw in her test report that all the Chinese herbs, not all, but several of them, 6 or 7, came up as being reactive for her. And I figured she was probably taking these herbs that her husband was prescribing for various things based on concepts. But our biological test showed that she was perhaps taking too many. She went off the Chinese herbs. She lost weight, and she was pretty healthy. She's a very health conscious individual, but she lost extra pounds and her skin cleared up. Sometimes we take things assuming, and it could be food or it could be a supplement or an herb, and we assume these things are all healthy. It could be not only not benefiting us, it might actually be harming us. I just want to quickly mention there's a third test that kind of goes together. This is a genetic test, and we look at the methylation cycle. And methylation is an important physiological process for a number of aspects of physiological function, including the elimination of a toxic metabolic intermediary, a protein called, an amino acid rather, called homocysteine, which can drive a lot of disease, cardiovascular disease, neurological disease, degenerative diseases. And there are certain genes that help that produce enzymes that help that metabolic cycle. If you have a polymorphism or variant in one of those, they can be corrected to a great extent by using nutritional supplementation. So taking those tests together, we call it the methylation or methyl detox test. By taking those 3 tests together, the ALCAT, the cellular nutrition assays, and the methyl detox test, we can then construct a very beneficial, personalized eating plan.
Wonderful. The bottom line is your cells don't lie. And so if you really are serious about taking your health to the next level, managing your weight, your energy, your gut, definitely check out the Cell Sciences test. I know you're offering our listeners a special. Amy, would you like to share what that is?
Yes. So you go to PreviMedica.com to get tested. And when you order a test at checkout, put in the code Yoga Fit, and there'll be 15% off any of those tests.
Great. So to our listeners at Make America Healthy, PreviMedica.com, and and then enter the code YogaFit at checkout to save 15%. This has been a very informative show. I'm so glad that I came across your tests. I'm glad and I'm not, but really I am glad. Yeah. Uh, and thank you both so much for being on Make America Healthy. We'd like to thank the sponsors of this show, Life Boost Coffee, providing clean, organic, mold-free, pesticide-free coffee that is shade-grown. They pay their farmers an equitable wage. They have over 50 different flavors and variations, including my new Mindfulness blend, which is a dark roast half-calf blend And you can save 15% at checkout at lifeboostcoffee.com by using the code YogaFit. We'd also like to thank Erconia Lasers, making high-tech red light and blue light lasers for pain, for inflammation. If you've torn a muscle or had a strain, these red light lasers are amazing. I use one on my dog. They can be used on dogs, cats, and horses as well. So check out erconialasers.com. And we'd like to thank our title sponsor, Yoga Fit Training Systems Worldwide, the leader in yoga, mind, body, fitness education. With over 4 live conferences a year, thousands of trainings online, and we're one-stop shopping for anything yoga, mind, body related. You can save 15% at checkout by using the code MAH, that's Make America Healthy, at yogafit.com. We're having a big conference in Orlando in September and also another huge one in Scottsdale in July. So we hope to see you at a Yoga Fit training. We also do corporate wellness and weight management programs. So if you enjoyed this show and you know someone who needs this information, please share it. And thank you to Roger and Amy from Cell Sciences. Great work. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Namaste,
Beth.
everyone.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having us. Great to be with you.